यमुना तीर बनचारी यमुना तीर बनचारी जय राधा माधव पुण्य बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीर बनचारी यमुना तीर बनचारी जय राधा माधव पुण्य बिहारी जय राधा माधव पुण्य बिहारी जय मंश परिव्राजकाचार्य जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय रामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण श्री राधा कृष्ण को गोपनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय नवदीप धाम की जय गंगा माँ की जय जमुना माँ की जय द्वारका धाम की जय स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जय और ग्लोरी श्री और ग्लोरी श्री थैंक यू वेरी मच
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, verse number 15. Patitang Skalito Bhagna Sandashtas Tapta Ahata Harir Iti Avashena Human Narhati Yatana Patitang Skalito Bhagna Sandashtas Tapta Ahata Haririti Harirityavashena Harirityavashena Humanarhati Yatana Humanarhati Yatana
पतितां स्खलितो भगना संदष्टस्तप्तवाहतः हरिरितवसेनाः pumana narhati jatana. These are some of the practical examples. There are persons who criticize chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. Nam Arthabhava, because the glories of the holy name are described here, that one can become free from the sinful reaction of life simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So sometimes those who are not in the line, they think it is too much. It is too much. So the next verse, it is advised, not it is too much, you can taste it. Taste it. What is that taste? Patita. When you fall down from a high place, suppose from the roof, you may fall down. Patitang. Skolita. You may sleep and fall down. Bhagna. By falling down, you may break your bones. Then sandasta. You may be bitten by some animal, cats, dogs, a snake. There are so many domestic. Then stapta, you may be burnt, and ahata, you may be injured from others. Then during this time you can taste practical. What is that taste? Hari iti avasena aha. Try to chant Hare Krishna.
In this auspicious Kshetram, Lord Narasimha appeared as Swami.
Puman, if anyone does so, na arhati jatana, he will immediately feel that from the injuries, you are not feeling pain. This is practical. Even a snake bite, you may be saved. The author says, never says that you may be saved from death, but the suggestion is that you may not feel much pain. This is practical. Because this material world is full of danger. These symptoms of dangerous position, patitang skhalito bhagna, especially in the modern age, in the Western countries, motor accident and die is very common thing nowadays. Here also it is becoming. On the whole, even there is no motor accident, there are so many accidents, and every step there is danger. Padang padang jad vipadam. This material world means every step there is danger. There is no question of safety at any moment. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj recommended Kumaram Acharit Pragya Dharman Bhagavatamya. Why? In the beginning of childhood one should learn Bhagavad Dharma. Durlabham Manasam Janma. Somehow or other we have got this body, human form of body, Durlabham, after many, many births. They do not know, the foolish person, they do not know what is the value of this human form of life. Jalajanam Lakhani, Sabra Lakhavinsati, Kimayam Rudra Sankhaka. In this way, 8,400,000 different forms of life we have to pass through. Then we have got this. Especially a civilized human being. The human race, they are also 400,000. 400,000 times. Out of them, those who are civilized, they are called Aryans. Aryan means civilized. Aryan means those who are making progress. They are called Aryans. Amongst the Aryans, there is the division Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha. The Aryans, they do follow this Vedic principle, Varnasam dharma. Varnasam acharvata purushena parakuma Vishnu aradhate. What is the purpose of Varnasam? No, Vishnu aradhana. Why Vishnu aradhana? There are so many other demigods. That is also answered by Lord Shiva. When he was asked by Parvati, what is the best form of worship? He recommended Aradhananam Sarvesham. There are many different types of worship. Sarvesham. Vishnu Aradhanam Param. He never said, Lord Shiva, that my Aradhana is. Krishna says, Mamekam Saranam Bhaja. But no other demigods had ever said, no. He'll never find. Here Lord Shiva says, Vishnu Aradhanam Param. Then again he stresses, Tasmat Parataram Devi Madhyanam Tadhyanam Aradhanam. Vishnu Aradhanam is the best. But better than this best, there is another Aradhana. What is that? Tadhyanam Aradhanam. To worship Vaishnava. Vishnu Aradhana is the topmost, but Vaishnava Aradhana is still more. Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, Chariya Vaishnava Seva Nistar Peche Keva. The Vaishnava Aradhana is so important. Therefore Krishna says, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadakshanti tad jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina. Tattvadarshi, this word tattva is very important. Unless one is tattvadarshi, there is no use to take instruction from him. Useless, waste of time. Tattvadarshi means, Krishna says in another place, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit jatati siddhaye. Siddhi means liberated, means who has no more the bodily concept of life. This is the Vedic meaning of Aham Brahmasmi. Aham, I, the spiritual spark, I am not this matter, I am a spirit soul. That is Brahman. So long we are in the bodily concept of life, that is called Jiva Bhuta, Mamaivangsha, Jiva Bhuta, conditioned soul. And when one understands Aham Brahmasmi, that is called Brahma Bhuta. There are two words. The conditioned soul is called Jiva Bhuta. He's thinking, I'm American, I'm Indian, I'm Brahman, I'm Kshatriya, I'm cat, I'm dog, I'm this and that. That is called Jiva Bhuta. And in the human form of life, when he studies Athata Brahma Jigyasa, when he is inquisitive to understand Brahma, spirit, that is real life. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, dharmartha kam moksha. So, moksha means tattva jigyasa. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. Not just ha karma bhi. That tattva jigyasa means to understand Krishna. You'll find in the Bhagavad Gita, Kaschid Veti Mam Tattva. He said, Tattva Jigyasa, who will inquire about Tattva? Those who are Siddha. So that Siddha state, Brahma Bhuta state, is not for everyone. Manusyanam sahasreshu, Kaschid jatati siddhaya. Out of many millions of persons, one may be interested how to become Siddha, to understand Aham Brahmasmi. That is called Siddha. And Jatatam api Siddhanam Kaschid Veti Mam Tattva. This is called Tattva Jigyasa. The Tattva Jigyasa is meant for the Siddhas, not for the fools and rascals. They cannot. They are inquiring, kya bhav hai? You'll find in the market, big merchants, they have got exchange in Calcutta, Bombay. The inquiry is kya bhav hai? But not that inquiry. क्या भाव है, इस शेयर का क्या भाव है, चावल का क्या भाव है, दाल का क्या भाव? Not that is not tattva jigyasa. Tattva jigyasa means what is Brahma? That is it. Because Vedas indicates that try to understand Aham Brahmasmi, you are Brahma. Tattvamasi, Soham. So this is the Vedic injunction. So the Vedic injunction, Tattva Jigyasa, that is the first aphorism in the Vedanta Sutra. Athata Brahma Jigyasa, the human form of life, is meant for inquiring about the absolute truth. Therefore, Bhagavad explained, Jivasya tattva jigyasa. That is the explanation of Brahma Sutra. Therefore you'll find at the end of each chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane, Brahma Sutra Bhashye. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the real comment of Brahma Sutra, Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra was compiled by Vyasdeva. He summarized all the Vedic knowledge. Summarized all Vedic knowledge into Brahma Sutra, in nutshell. Then he was not satisfied. Although he made so many Puranas, Mahabharata, Brahma Sutra, Upanishads, etc. When these were current, he wrote into letters in the book, being compassionate on the people of this age, all fools and rascals, they have no good memory. Therefore, he compiled all these Vedas into writing. Before that, there was no writing. people who are so sharp in memory, simply by hearing from the Guru, they will do it. Simply. The education and the brain and the capacity was so nice. But that is not possible. In the age, everything is diminishing. The strength, bodily strength is diminishing. The memory is diminishing. The duration of life is diminishing. Man's propensity to be merciful is diminishing. At the present moment, even in the civilized world, so-called civilized, if one man is being killed on the open street, nobody will go and help him. Because the tendency for showing mercy to others, that is diminishing. The bodily strength is diminishing, memory is diminishing, dharma, the principle of religion, that is diminishing. This is calculated. Therefore, Brahma Jigyasa, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was questioned by Prakashananda Saraswati at Benares, follower of Shankar philosophy, that there was meeting between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like to meet the Mayavadi sannyasis. He used to live alone. But sometimes these Mayavadi sannyasis, they are criticizing him that this Bengali sannyasi come from Bengal. He does not indulge in reading Brahma Sutra, Vedanta Sutra. He dances and chants with some ecstatic people. What kind of sannyasi is? A sannyasi is meant for studying Vedanta Sutra, Sankhya philosophy. Some of them are very learned scholars, there is no doubt about it. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was inquired by Prakashananda Saraswati, "Sir, I learned that in your previous life you was a learned scholar, you was known as Nimai Pandit. And you have taken sannyas that, sir, if I reply your question candidly, please do not be sorry." "No, I am not sorry, we are prepared." Because my Guru Maharaj, Swami, I am the greatest fool. Guru more murkho dekhi. Kohila Vedante nahi tavo adhikar. He became a fool. The purpose was that the present moment they are simply fools and rascals. What they will understand about Vedanta? Therefore, the Shastric injunction is Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama. So there was very long discussion and all the sannyasis, 60,000 sannyasis, they were convinced about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, his explanation of the Upanishad. So it is not that the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sampradaya is simply chanting and dancing. If required, they are prepared to answer all Vedic discussion. They are prepared. We have got so many books, all Vedic discussion. Not that we are simply but this is sufficient. Simply chanting is sufficient. But if one thinks like Prakashananda Saraswati, that these people simply chant and dance, sometimes one sannyasi accused them, like in Germany, that Bharati. So, we answered them that come on, we have got at least 75 books, 400 pages each, to teach you Krishna consciousness. Come on. So we are prepared. It is not that. Chaitanya, we are the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was chanting and dancing. But when there was Prakashananda Saraswati, when there was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he discussed Vedanta very elaborately. Not with fools and rascals. A Pandit like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, a sannyasi like Prakashananda Saraswati, who knew what is Vedanta, what is Vedas, then we are prepared. Because we know certainly, Krishna says, Vedashta Satvai Aham Vedam. If anyone understands Krishna, it is to be understood that he has studied all the Vedas. There is no doubt about it. Vedashta Satvai Aham Vedam. Bhaunam Janmanam Ante Jnanaman Man Prabhatta Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudullava. So everything is explained there. We are preaching Krishna consciousness not with empty hand. We are prepared to talk on Vedanta, we are prepared to talk on Upanishad, and the conclusion is Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Iti Chamsa Phala Kumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. This is the conclusion. Krishna also confirms that Matta Parataram Nanya Kinchi Jasti Dhananjaya. Pranava, sometimes they take Pranava as the supreme. Krishna says, Pranava aham sarva vedesu. This Pranava Ankar in all the Vedas, that is I am. That is my sound representation. So, this holy name of Krishna is so powerful that simply by chanting one can become liberated. This is the blessing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, Iha hoite sarva siddhi hoive tuma. All siddhis. Cheta darpana mata. Siddhi means to cleanse the heart. That is siddhi. Because we are now materially obsessed. We are thinking, I am Indian, I am American, I am this and that, all material, upadhi. And bhakti means when you are freed from the upadhi, then bhakti begins. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sojati na kankati samas sarveshu bhuteshu bhakti labati para. Then bhakti begins. Bhakti is not for the person who is not liberated. Because as soon as you begin a bhakti, devotional service, you immediately come to the liberated platform. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Mancha vyavicharini bhakti yogena ja sevate sagunan samatittayetan brahma bhuvaya kalpata. Bhakti, beginning of bhakti means immediately he is on the Brahma platform. We are trying to understand aham brahmasmi, but if you take to devotional service, you are immediately on the platform of Brahma bhuvaya kalpata. So this is the scientific understanding of Brahma Bhuta state or aham brahmasmi, and everything is explained in Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, this name is Brahma. The holy name of Lord is Brahma. Brahma's name means Brahma. Because Brahma is absolute. He is not different from his name, he is not different from his form, he is not different from his quality. Otherwise, how we are worshipping this form of Krishna here? This Krishna and that Krishna. There is no this and that. Krishna is one. But even if we think that this is the statue of Krishna, that is our misconception. It is not statue, it is Krishna. Or we have to prepare our eyes to see. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he entered Jagannath temple, he immediately fainted, here is Krishna. Here is Krishna. Because he had the eyes to see Krishna. So we have to prepare our eyes to see. That eye is also explained in the Brahma Samhita. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santas sadaiva hridayeshu vilochanena. To develop your love of Krishna, then Krishna will be revealed. Sevan mukhehi jivado sameva suratada. So you cannot understand Krishna by argument or by your staring eyes. No. You have to prepare your eyes, you have to prepare your ear, you have to prepare your nose, you have to prepare your tongue, you have to prepare your hand, you have to prepare your leg. All these senses. Sarvapadhi vinimuktam tatparatena nirmalam. Rishikena rishikesa sevanam bhaktiruchyate. These senses, now it is upadhi. I am thinking I am American, therefore my hand is American, my leg is American, my eyes are American. No. You have to become free from this American eyes or Indian eyes or Brahminical eyes. No. Pure eyes. Sarvapadhi vinimuktam tatparatena nirmalam. When your eyes are purified from all these designations, when your senses are purified, then nirmalam means purified. That sense is purification does not mean that you are senseless. No. Just like cataract operation of the eyes does not mean pluck out the eyes. No, the eyes will remain, the cataract will be taken away, then you will see. So when your material conception of life is finished, aham brahmasmi, that is called aham brahmasmi. And to simply realize aham brahmasmi will not stay. You have to go farther. Brahma bhuta prasannatmana sauchati nakankati samas sarveshu bhute mad bhakti ravati parāti. If you make farther advance, then your Brahma activities will begin, and that is called bhakti parāti. Thank you very much.
And they asked me to do musical accompaniment for a special showing, the killing of Pralambasura. In the old temple room, only for Srila Prabhupada, there was narration from the Krishna book, and they acted out a dance drama pastime. So only Srila Prabhupada, his servant, and maybe one other devotee were in the temple room at the time. And I sat at Prabhupada's lotus feet with a mridanga, singing different bhajans to accompany the pure dance segment of the dance drama. And occasionally I would look up at Srila Prabhupada to see his reaction. And when Lord Balaram killed Pralambasura, striking him with his fist, at that moment I looked up at Srila Prabhupada, and his mouth dropped open, his eyes got very wide, And then he began smiling and laughing, and you could see he was totally immersed in the pastime. And he really expressed his appreciation of how hearing the pastimes was so important. And that's what made this so special, was that the story came to life by hearing the words of the pure devotee right from Krishna book, and then the dance accompanying it.
It happened on 3 different occasions. I went in and Prabhupada was reading Krishna book, and he said, if you just read this one book, you can be Krishna conscious. He said, you don't have to read hundreds of books, just this one book. And he had his glasses on, and I was sitting in front of him. Then he just looked at me and he said, you don't even have to read the whole book, just one chapter. If you just read one chapter of this book, you can be Krishna conscious. And I'm just nodding my head, yes, Prabhupada. But he just kept staring. And then he said, you don't even have to read the whole chapter, just one page. And he just ran his finger down the page. And then he's looking, and he said, you don't even have to read the whole page, just one line. And he ran his finger across the line of the Krishna book. And I said, yes, Prabhupada. And he's still looking. And he said, you don't even have to read a whole line, just one word. And he pointed to a word in the book. He said, just one word of this book, if you read, you can become Krishna conscious, because Krishna is in every word. And then he put his head back down into the book, and I offered obeisances and I left. But he said that about 3 different books to me over a year. If you just read this one book, once it was Nectar Devotion, once it was Bhagavad Gita, once it was Krishna book. But he said, any one of these, if you just read this one book, you can be Krishna conscious. You can understand Krishna is in every word. And this is what Prabhupada gave us. Nobody else has given us this. There's direct connection to Krishna through his pure devotee.
Different people are coming to visit Prabhupada, so everybody's bringing Prabhupada something. So the first person comes in, gives Prabhupada a nice gold Omega watch, real gold watch. Prabhupada says, thank you very much, puts it on, takes the watch he had on, and gives it to whoever was there. Then another person comes in, gives Prabhupada a gold Rolex watch. That must have been at least $3,500. He takes off the gold Omega, gives that away to somebody, puts the gold Rolex watch on, thank you very much. Then another person comes in and gives Prabhupada a Seiko, the cheapest of all 3 of them, right? Maybe it was a $100 watch. Prabhupada says, oh, takes the gold Rolex, gives that away, puts the Seiko on, thank you very much. You can see, Prabhupada was simply accepting on behalf of Krishna. Nothing like, oh wow, save this one for me or put it in my drawer, nothing like this, just whatever you're giving is, I'm taking on Krishna's behalf. You would see that in Prabhupada all the time, No mundane attachment.
I was making pillowcases and curtains and bed covers. There's also one pillowcase I made with tassels on the end, and Prabhupada's leaning against that and playing with the tassel. Prabhupada watched me cleaning, particularly his desk. He would sit behind the desk, and I would take all the things off the desk, wipe the whole desk, and then wipe each article and put it back exactly where it was before. And Prabhupada really liked that. He told me, it is very nice how you're cleaning and putting things exactly the way it was before.
The first time that Prabhupada came to the new Los Angeles temple, it was done so nicely with all the marble, all the decorations, flowers being showered down, and playing Jamuna's Govindam. And then Prabhupada went up to his apartment. Bhavananda had done the painting, blue walls, the white ceiling, and the orange curtains. That was the standard. It was so nice with the incense. And I said, Prabhupada, this is heaven.
And Prabhupada looked at me and he grimaced. He said, heaven? This is Vaikuntha. There was a big difference between heaven and Vaikuntha.
And Bhaktivedanta Thakur stated that he was leaving this planet with his work unfinished.
Then let us finish. We are descendants of Bhaktivedanta Thakur. So he kept unfinished so that we shall get the chance to finish it. That is his mercy. He could have finished immediately. He's Vaishnava, he's all powerful. But he gave us the chance. It is Bhaktivedanta Thakur's mercy. The air carries different flavor of the physical elements.
This is probably the most intimate scene we've ever filmed of Srila Prabhupada. Vishaka was doing the recording of the sound and I was shooting the 16mm camera. Really the reason we got a chance to film this scene goes back to the Gurpurnima Festival of 1974, where we premiered the first ISKCON film documentary, The Hare Krishna People. Srila Prabhupada appreciated that film and encouraged us to make more films. I thought at that time that I would eventually want to make a documentary on Srila Prabhupada's life. So I asked him if that would be possible. And his reply was, what is the need? And I said, in the future, people will want to know who started the Hare Krishna movement. Srila Prabhupada thought for a moment and then gave his consent to make the film. We didn't have a script at that time. I just thought we should film Srila Prabhupada in as many different situations as possible. So in the summer of 1975, Srila Prabhupada came to LA, and we shot more film during that week than I think any other period of time. I was most nervous shooting this scene of Srila Prabhupada translating, really in fear of disturbing him. But we can see that he was totally absorbed in his translation. And I don't think anyone else could have done that, to have a large 16mm camera pointed at them, at the same time being fully absorbed in their work. And it really must have been a distraction for him because we had set up lights inside, otherwise there wasn't enough light. And actually at the end of this scene he looks up and speaks to me. And at that point I panicked and immediately turned off the camera. So it was just definitely his mercy that he allowed us to film so many different varieties of scenes during that time in Los Angeles.
I stayed in LA from 73 till 76, and whenever Srila Prabhupada was visiting, I would rise very early, sometimes at 1 o'clock, 1:30 was normal, and I would go behind the temple. And there was an alleyway behind the LA temple. There was a laundromat that the devotees used, and it was dark and creepy at night. But anyhow, I went there, and standing behind the temple, you could look up at Srila Prabhupada's quarters, his darshan room window, and he was always there, no matter how early I got up. He was always already sitting there, and sometimes I could hear him softly chanting japa. It's mostly summer there and the windows were open, or quite often I would hear him translating. And I would chant my japa softly down there and think that I was protecting Srila Prabhupada because it was a dark alley and he was silhouetted in the window. You could see him, and I was always afraid someone would come. You know, it was the time of John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King, and these people had been shot. So I used to get up early and chant there and protect Prabhupada. But it was nice because I felt like it was a little time with him. I could hear him translating or hear him chanting.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives in this connection a description of the difference of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and ordinary living being.
The first time we were in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada went down there from San Francisco. This is in Los Angeles, 1968. And at that time, we joined him. Prabhupada was living in this apartment that was so noisy. There was a guy who liked loud music, at night, which was disturbing to Prabhupada. But one of the things that happened there that's very nice, Prabhupada had started teaching us up in San Francisco. This is just after he returned to America. We had expressed a desire to learn Bengali and Sanskrit. So every day we would come into his room at a certain time, and he would recite the alphabet, and we would recite it after him. And then he would talk about it. I really wanted to be able to read Chaitanya Charitamrita, but I couldn't because I didn't know the language. So Prabhupada taught me one verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which, by the way, was not printed at this time. Remember, there's only his big Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was always open every morning when I cleaned his room. That's what he would read in the early morning times, was his Chaitanya Charitamrita. I would find it open. It was beautiful. It just glowed. And I would clean it very nicely, and I would wish that I could read it and everything. He knew that I had this affection for Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so he taught me a verse from it. And he would ask me to sing it every day. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Shahodito Gora Daye Pushpa Banto Chitra Shando Tamanito. And he explained that the meaning of this verse is that normally the sun and the moon don't rise together. But in this case, both the sun and the moon have arisen over the land of Gauda. And they're Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are just like the sun and the moon, and they're dispelling all the darkness of the world. And every day he would say, Govindasi, have you remembered that verse? And I would sing it to him. I never forgot it. And he was so happy. He was so delighted. So then we went down to LA, and many times he would ask me, have you remembered that verse? And I would sing it to him. He loved it. While we were in LA that time, this is the first time, we would sit at the kitchen table and write the letters. We were learning the alphabets of Sanskrit, Devanagari. And one time Prabhupada came into the room, and he looked over our shoulder at what we were doing for a few minutes. And then he said, Krishna does not need our service. He simply needs our love. He simply needs to see we're trying to serve him. Just like the teacher may see that the child is making scribbles, but he sees that the child is trying, so he feels happy. So it's like that. Krishna doesn't need anything from us, but he wants our love. He wants to see that we are trying to love him. It's a very profound instruction. And that was a very sweet time. I was working on the cover of the Gita, the original Gita, the purple one, and he was supervising it. It was a universal form. It had a lot of arms, but Macmillan took them all off. But the drawing that Prabhupada had me do had lots of arms. So Prabhupada would come in, and over my shoulder he would guide me in doing that. When Prabhupada took a nap, I would sit quietly and read. The books that Gursunder had gotten were the Chaitanya Charitamrita. They were done by an Indian. They were the only Chaitanya Charitamrita in English prior to Prabhupada's. 7 skinny little books that Gursunder had bought at some Indian store in New York. It wasn't Gaudiya Math, it was a translation by some scholar, but they were nice. They were better than nothing. And so I used to sit on the floor and read them while Prabhupada was resting, because we didn't have any books. Just remember, the Gita hadn't been printed. There was only the 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I would sit and read them, and Prabhupada could see how much we liked them. And that was when he decided that he would translate Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Gursunder was learning Bengali, so he would do the transliteration. He would give me a tape every day, and I would transcribe it. If you look in the front part of Chaitanya Charitamrita, some of my friends have requested me to do, it's because we were so eager to have Chaitanya Charitamrita.
course, it was difficult to get on Prabhupada's morning walk. The scene that stands out in my mind is one or two cars parked in that alleyway next to Prabhupada's quarters on Watseka Avenue. 2 cars ready to go, packed, just packed with the most competitive sannyasis and senior devotees who would do anything to get on that morning walk with Prabhupada. And if you weren't in that top echelon, it was pretty tough to get on those walks. But anyway, somehow or other, from the lower echelons, I did get onto a couple of them. One thing I remember is just how much Prabhupada walked and how fast Prabhupada walked. I was so grateful to be on the walk, and then I was so exhausted trying to keep up with Prabhupada and the devotees. It was really quite something.
Prabhupada had become very disturbed. He had learned that his manuscripts that he had written through amazing sacrifice of sleep, he stayed up at night and dictated his books. They had been sent in to our New York BBT office, and they had not done the production. He had written so many books with commentaries, and they were just lying there. So Prabhupada had flown into Los Angeles, and it was a very tense beach walk. He was discussing how important it was to publish these books, and how upset he was that they were lying there, and he was demanding that they be published right away. He then asked, how long will it take? So Radha Ballava from New York was there, because he had been a production manager. So we pulled ourselves back, and we discussed, how long will it take you to get me the book so I can send them to the printer? And he told me that he thought we could do 1 book every 2 months. I mean, at this point, we were doing 1 book every 4 to 6 months. So we went back into the walk, we caught up again, and we told Prabhupada, we think we can do 1 book every 2 months. So Prabhupada turned around and said, I want all 17 books done in 2 months. I just blurted out, Prabhupada, that's impossible. At that point, Prabhupada stopped walking, and he had a cane, and he planted it in the sand, and he turned around and looked at me very gravely and said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And there was complete silence. We were all stunned. We were just completely stunned. Here's Prabhupada, perfectly in touch with Krishna, telling us that this can be done. It seemed to defy the physical laws as we knew it. So after some very long moments of silence, Prabhupada started walking immediately, and the senior devotees, they just turned and started staring at me, like, so what are you going to do? So this was a matter of just absolute blind faith. Either you believed or you did not believe. It was that type of moment where you commit. Never mind what your intelligence is telling you is possible. So Radha Ballava and I kind of fell back again, and we just started talking again. We have to do this. This can be done. And all of a sudden we started coming up with ideas that we hadn't thought of. And we just started getting ideas of different parallel production lines and turning the production lines into 24-hour production lines with 2 or 3 shifts, and recruiting devotees from all over to help us with this, and on and on and on. And this was all happening in the span of just a few minutes. We were just being flooded with these ideas. And we both realized that in order to do this, we all had to be together in one central place. And it seemed more logical to do it in Los Angeles. We have the housing for everybody, and we can expand easily. So then we caught up to the walk, and we said to Srila Prabhupada, if we're going to do this, we have to move the entire BBT division from New York to Los Angeles. The art department, the production, everything. And Srila Prabhupada approved that. He said, fine, do it immediately. And we started.
I was a very fast typist in the composing department, so they were trying to round up any of the past composers to get them all on board. And they flew me out from New Vrindavan to Los Angeles. I tell you, that was so nectarine that because of the support system that Ramaswar set up, a family was designated to cook or to maintain that devotee, do their laundry, feed them, because we were staying up in the nighttime, kind of irregular schedules, just to keep it round the clock, all the composers, the composing machines filled up. I saw as the days went on in typing this nectar from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pastimes, the loving relationships between Lord Chaitanya and the devotees, that it was so sweet. I was able to just go beyond whatever limits I had before. And I was up all night and day practically. Just stopped to chant and to eat and sleep very little. And in fact, on one morning walk, Radha Vallabha had said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, there's one Mataji who is practically not eating or sleeping. She's just typing all day and night. And Prabhupada said, yes, she is running on spiritual energy. He was speaking about me, as he told me later.
So the 17 books got published. The last book came out probably on the last day of the 2-month cycle. And we called the secretary and we told him, it's done. We gave up everything and somehow it happened. And this is a very happy time. Everybody's feeling that there's nothing we can't do now. We can spread this movement anywhere in the world. There was no limitation on anything. That's how we were all feeling. Not just the devotees who immediately were involved, but devotees all over the world were feeling that there are no material restraints or limitations. And so it was really a great moment for everybody to just expand their book distribution and their convincing people to join the temples. It was just one of those great times.